evening or good morning, good afternoon, whenever you are catching us. I am Maria, and this is Pain to Power Leading with Love. And I am so excited to have you all here with us to share in this journey of learning all the different ways that we are transmuting our pain and turning it into power through stories of many different guests. And before I introduce my amazing guests this evening, I want to just tap into thinking about some things when it comes to pain, about this idea of really right now discomfort. So, a lot of times when we're in that pain space, we're feeling a lot of discomfort. And I thought about this because recently I went on a trip. To Jamaica, and I did one of those excursions, and I was able to do like one of these leaps, right? And jump into the Blue Hole Spring, which is a tiny little spring, and as I was physically feeling the discomfort and fear, I was starting to reflect on the emotional discomfort and fear that we often feel. And a lot of it comes from that unknown of what's on the other end. So, as you are experiencing pain in your moments throughout your day or in the moments where they come up, I offer this is that lean into that discomfort because I know it comes from a place of fear and the unknown. But when we face the unknown, and we face the fear, we are able to move into a place where we can sit in the discomfort long enough to move through it. So I hope as you continue on this journey with us that you create and take away tools to be able to find your spaces to heal and find your power. And today I'm really excited to introduce our guest. And as I'm thinking about her, I think about this quote at the end of one of her books that she shares with us, which is that we go through things to grow through things for the sake of change. One shall never get stuck in obstacles, by Jenise S. Wilson. And I want to welcome our guest, Jenise Stokes, formerly known as Jenise Wilson. Welcome, Jenise. And I just realized I apologize. Jenise Stokes, not Stokes. I want to
Yes,
make sure I
ma'am.
get that
I was
right.
gonna get
I
you
got to
there.
get that right.
No problem.
Welcome. It's so
Thank
great to
you.
have you here this evening.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for considering me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your time. So I brought you here because I happened to see you at a spoken word event and you shared some poetry. So tell us a little bit about just your background so our audience knows a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and then we're going to get into it.
Most certainly. So about myself, I am Jenise Stocks once again, and I am an author, entrepreneur, videographer, a lady of many things. Just a creative person, a creative being. Yes, all about a dollar, holla.
The dollar and the everything,
Yes,
right?
all in the purpose. You know, you got to throw the purpose in there because the money gonna
Yes.
come. So, but it's all about the purpose at the end of the day. From Newport News, Virginia. Born in the neighborhood. Well, not born, but raised in the neighborhood called Newsom Park. What I like to, well, I always like to shout out because we are sometimes you bring your past with you, but I
Mm-hmm.
love that my past kind of shaped and molded me who I am today. With those places that I have come from. But yeah, that's pretty much me. From Hampton, Virginia. I mean Newport News, Virginia, born and raised. Writer, started writing at a very early age. Started
Mm-hmm.
being creative at a very early age. I was telling my husband that too long ago. I was telling him this story. We got time. 1 second for story time. Story time far as how it's, sometimes God reveal things to you from when you started your purpose at a very young age, or when because nothing goes unwasted. But I remember I used to watch this show, That's So Raven, and I used to
Mm-hmm.
like the dialogue in it, and just that was like my favorite show. And I was like, I want to do a TV show. I want to write me a TV show one day. And I remember like writing Jada said such and such and such, and Jada said, and not knowing that one day I was going to go to school for cinematic arts, I was going to write scripts, I was going to write a book. So that creative being has always been inside of me. So I'm just here to share my gift with the world.
I love that, and that's beautiful. And I think it's such a great example of the idea of purpose leading you to manifest your future, right?
Right.
Um, and when we're driven, we get through it. And I appreciate that you gave a shout out to Newsom because that is part of like where we come from is who we are. for
Yes.
certain, right? It's part of who we are for sure. So I've invited you here, and the show is called Pain to Power. And welcome to, I gotta say, shout out to all of our supporters who are here. Just one love, welcome. So in thinking about this idea of pain to power, for you and your journey, what has that meant to you?
From pain to power. Obstacles, going through things. I think in order to be a diamond, not that I think, I know through experience, in order to be a diamond, you have to be shaped and molded. You gotta, sometimes life applies pressure on us. And that pressure is there to shape and mold us into the being that we need to be for the purpose that we were created from. A lot of people fold under pressure. But I believe that pain to power, any obstacle, you're gonna get the victory through it. But it's like getting through it. You're not going to get stuck there. You're going to get through it. You're going to go. You're going to go through the tunnel. You're not going to stop. You're going to get through it. You're going to get past it. Pain of power is a powerful statement within itself. Far as overcoming, and like the quote that you read in the beginning, hey, we go through things to grow through things. It's
Mm.
always there to get you to the next level, to get you to the next step in life. Sometimes God will put challenges on us so that we can experience something, just to maybe even just to give us a different perspective. So he's like, okay, aha, you get this. Now you can go to the next level. I can get you on another dimensional level of thinking so you can, take it up a notch or whatever. I can give you a little bit more, so it's just, but without those experiences, like, we always hear in quotes, experience is the best teacher. Without those experiences, you really never don't quite get it. So it's good to just go through those things so that you can grow through those things, and also know at the same time that you're not going to get stuck there.
Mm, I love that. But that's such a beautiful thing to be able to then be shaped and molded. So there's a purpose to it, right? That pain has that purpose of shaping and molding you to be who you're going to be. And that is powerful. So as you're thinking about that for you, you talked about being young, knowing your purpose with writing, but something brought you there. So
Right.
what was it that has been the things that have led you to feel like you needed that outlet of writing, or that like writing had become your thing?
For one, I think, with, not to get off topic, but to get on topic. A lot of it comes from my mom. Sometimes things are genetically passed down. It's just in our DNA. My mom is a writer too. So, her being a writer, and out of nowhere, I noticed that, hey, I kind of enjoy this writing thing too. So, let me go ahead and give it a try. But I learned that as I got older. Actually, my mom, she brought me my first journal. I used to write all of my thoughts down. It just made me feel good. It was one of those things that, growing up in the area, growing up in the projects or ghetto, whatever you want to call it, the hood, it was an outlet because you see so much. And once again, me and my husband was speaking about this as well. We was talking about things that you see when you grow up. Like, it's not normal to see bodies or constantly seeing a fight every single day. Those things and those traumas, those are what I call now glory triggers. But however, it was the writing that basically helped me keep sane. It was, me writing down and not knowing the power of writing. Far as that, even with me writing, I was manifesting things over my life. I would write things like, this will not be me. I'm gonna live in my purpose. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna be a millionaire. And
Mm.
this is me writing these things at a young age. And it's like, I just kind of early on just noticed that this is something that I like to gravitate to. Even though I was still in the streets, I was still doing a little, still a little being a little hothead. But just at the same time, God still hit a pull on me. He definitely hit a pull on me. So I was still able to use that purpose that was embedded inside of me to get over to the other side.
Mm. Mm. That's
Yeah,
that I appreciate that, right? Like, and I think the purpose has expanded too. Now it's not just you're writing for you, right? Like that's maybe where you started,
right.
but you created that writing, and now you've brought other people into your story, but also into helping them. So along the way, there's a lot that happened, I imagine, before, but what led you to then writing your own book?
Writing my own book. I noticed, well, Color Girl Chronicles had come from I had always been writing up, always, wrote down short stories, so forth, so on. But when I got to college, I started to, in college, you meet your best friends in college. So of course, best friends get together, we get drunk and we cry and we tell our stories. And you notice that in the vulnerable state, we've all experienced similar situations. And to still be able to focus on school, I just thought, us black women, we are powerful.
Mm.
Like we are that, all that in the bag of chips and dip. So we are that. And I wanted to just be able to share that because even at that time, no one really wanted. I was like, we should just start like a little group where we get together and just, but nobody really feels comfortable in their vulnerable states. When you feel vulnerable, you feel weak, which should be the actually complete opposite. Vulnerability is a strength; it's not a weakness.
Mm.
And so I yeah, so I wanted to be able to, share that truth so a lot of women can be able to come out and say, hey, you know what, I experienced this too. This was my glory trigger. It's not a trauma. It's not a well, it is, you could call it trauma, but I like to call it glory triggers because we want to make sure that we give our pain victory too at the same time. Because we got to give ourselves the victory because we got through it instead of just, dwelling on it and saying, hey, this is still happening. This is this even though things take time to process, but at the same time, you know, you're gonna get the victory. You're gonna get the victory. The victory is yours. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you mentioned specifically, right, that your focus was on focusing on Black women and their
yeah.
experiences, and you created the Color Girl Chronicles, and I'm curious to know, like, specifically how that guided what you wrote about, and also even just like thinking about, you mentioned vulnerability. Actually,
Hmm.
I'm a pull back because I actually want to know more about when you're saying about vulnerability. When you asked for others to come into this space with you, your friends, and start this process, how was that? Like, how did you move through that vulnerability? Because that's a big thing, especially for young women, especially for women of color, and I would imagine also being Black women, where those the messages that are received about vulnerability are not that it's accepted.
Right, right. And to answer that question, it really wasn't like a big thing or a big thought that I put into it. It was more of an action. I'm more of a person where I don't really, oh, I'm going to do this, or I actually plan. I just started to do it. If it's lit on my heart, um, and I like to have witty inventions or witty creativity ideas and stuff. It was an idea. It was brought forth, and I just took action. Um, I felt it was a passion wholeheartedly. I was driven to it and I was really interested in it. When I become interested in something, it becomes a goal, it
Mm.
becomes a number one. So it was like I became really intrigued about the why in people's situation. It's like, why did you have to go through that? Why did you? Because I do feel too that a lot of things that we go through it for a reason. And sometimes you may not understand it at the moment, and I wanted the book to kind of somewhat give people clarity of their why. Because I speak about a lot of the why in the poetry of the book. So that was more of where it was driven from. It was more of trying to understand the why of a person's situation, bring a light to the situation. Because I feel like when we go through things, all we do is cover it with darkness, and we don't give it any light, and we don't give that pain room to grow into power. So
Mm.
I wanted to just that was my driven point, just wanting to understand the why of people's situations, and to compare and say, okay, so you went through that, so what was next in your life, and noticing, okay, that's what God gave you, the glory and the victory right there, because he wanted you to understand. And it was so crazy because actually me and a friend, I'll give you an example. Me and a friend was talking about, actually my friend Marsha, my best friend, she texted me today about something that she had heard at church. It was more how we kind of sometimes beg people to be back in our life who really don't need to be there. And the
Mm.
example that her pastor gave her was, people, we have these broken relationships, and I'm just use a father figure. We always pray, hey, I wish my father was in my life. When whole time, his absence was actually a blessing. God said, I needed his DNA, but his character didn't need to be in your life. So and it was that sometimes you, why was he not in my life? Yeah, your DNA needed to be there. You need to be here. But that character, if he was there in your life, you probably would have been worse off, or his presence really wasn't purposeful. So it's just really understanding the why, and why God strategically, why things happen the way that they happen, and why even the bad situation, God still gets the glory. And I see just one love. She's asking a question about the
Yeah.
what type of church did you grow up in? What type of church did you? What do you mean, like Pentecostal, Baptist, or we speak in tongues around here, girl? I don't know what question. How you want me to answer that?
Well, I mean, we'll go with that. What denomination and how has it
Has
affected
it
you
affected
positively or
you?
negatively? Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of faith in everything that you're saying. So how, what, yeah, what denomination?
Was it denomination? Honestly, the church that I was, it was a faith based. We didn't even have, like, a lot of old school people do denominations. This new school really didn't do denominations. It was, Christian faith. That was the name of the church. It wasn't titled Pentecostal. It wasn't titled Baptist. It
Hmm.
was where a lot of people, we came and we praised and we worshiped. So it wasn't. And she say, how has it affected you positively? How was the? What do you mean? How did the church affect me, or how did? She'll probably write it again. I was reading her question. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So I mean, and I guess then the question is, yeah, like what has the impact been of you growing up in the church and the experiences that you have through faith?
My experience, and actually I kind of just got back with my faith. I wasn't always this girl that talked about the church all the time. I actually kind of stepped away. I was angry at the church for a while. As I got older, 16, you go through those hormones, and you just, my mom, she was a prophetess in the church, so we was at church every, girl, I mean, we had to go and stand up. My mama used to take me to that bathroom sometimes, beat my butt, because I'm like, I'm not about to stand up. I'm tired. I don't want. I'm all churched out. I don't want to be in church, But there is a scripture. And I don't know about heart, because, like I said, I'm just now getting back into my word. But
Hmm.
you raise a child up a certain way, and they will never depart from their ways. So, and I was raised in the church, and a lot of that, a lot of those, we don't really understand it until you get older, for real. And once again, going back to that why, the why in this situation, and having that faith, and having that. So it was, I loved it. I'm glad I was raised in the church. I thank my mom now, and she was, you know, now we pray together. My mama, she was one of the types that she would wake me up out of my sleep with oil on my forehead at 5 o'clock in the morning. And you really don't you really learn early, when that later on, far as we, life is just not physical, spiritual warfare is real, and you want to make
Mm.
sure that you are well equipped. And it's okay. I knew how to fight on the street, but now I'm trying to fight in the spiritual realm. So I'm trying to
Mm.
learn how to do another fight. I'm trying to get that down packed, because you want to, I mean, witches and warlords are real. Yeah.
And that requires a different kind of muscle, right? Like, no, but it's true and it's work. And I love that you brought in the why piece because that's so important in everything we do as to why we experience that pain and then what we're getting from it. I love how you frame that, right? The glory of the pain, right? What's the glory of the pain, and how we frame things makes such a difference in terms of how we experience it and how we take it in and what we take from it. Um, and Just One Love says that was my mama too. Yes, right. I think a lot of folks that could resonate with that, right? Church is home, right? And I always think about it because my mother, I wasn't born and raised in church. I was born as a Muslim. I'm raised in a Muslim home, but I know that like there's something about faith and spirituality that gives generations different kinds of grounding,
Right.
right? And especially when life is challenging, especially when things are uncertain and there's this discomfort, right? There's the comfort that comes from faith.
Right.
whatever that is for you. So what did bring you back to it actually before we go into the book? Because now that we're talking about it, let's go in there. Like, so
Girl, you can't do nothing without God. He just always bring you right back on in. You will drop to your lowest point, and nobody else is there to help you. And the only thing you can just do is sit there and pray. And you know what, God, you got my attention. And that's what sometimes our pain is for. God just wants your attention. He wants to be there at the forefront of your life and the decisions, so He can take you and lead you and guide you. So that's why I just noticed, it was one of those aha moments. Okay, God, I can't do it by myself. I got to get myself together. Like
Mhm.
I gotta be able to get it together. So it was, and it's just things have been going up ever since. Even though nothing has ever been too down, but because I'm always get through. I don't care what I go through. I'm gonna make it out golden on the other side every single time.
I love it. I love it. And welcome, salute, welcome, Lawrence Turner. Appreciate you being in
That's
here.
cuz. What's up, cuz?
Oh, cuz. All right. Okay. Family's here in the chat. I love it. Um, so let's get into these books because there's a purpose and there's the why. You have three different books, part one, two, and three of the Color Girls Chronicles. Tell me a little bit more about each of these books and the purpose of each one.
Yes, yes. So part one, that was the very first one. A lot of part one was what I wrote in high school, a lot of the poetry. So the stories that I were able to obtain. So first of all, the Color Girl Chronicles, and they're not necessarily in order. You can read them in any order. It's just more than one book. I like to. Some people like to compare it to. If you ever read the book Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul, how there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stories
Mm-hmm.
in one book. So it's like that, but it's just with all Black women, and then there's a poem pertaining to each situation. So, so to talk about the books, it was just basically, like stated before, gathered a lot of stories just to speak about vulnerability of Black women. And to be completely honest with you, I'm in the because now we talk about growing and pain to power and transitioning and evolving. So now that I'm evolving and I came out of my cocoon stage and I'm in my butterfly stage, um, so actually revising those books. I'm revising them. I'm actually here soon. They'll be republished in August. So be looking out for that because they will be republished in August. I'm doing some different things with them. I'm going a different route with it. A lot of it that I wrote, not to say that I just came up with something a little bit more powerful. Let's just say that because I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to give it, I don't want to talk down on it because I love those books. They are my babies. They will always be my babies. But I got something better to say.
Mm.
I got a different perspective. And with time, we had those epiphanies and we understand now why a little bit better with time and with experience. And now, I'm just ready to tell it in a different way, in a new perspective where it can actually reach more than, because the book was actually aimed towards more young women, but now I'm a little older, and I connect with a lot of older women, and it's like, okay, the perspective is different from when you're a young adult, and when you kind of,
Right.
the perspective kind of sways back and forth. So I got a better way. I'm just, guys, it's just, you guys just stay tuned. You're gonna see it. It's gonna be on license. But yeah, it's just stay tuned. Definitely stay tuned. Make sure you follow me on Instagram because you will not regret it. I am about to blow some people's mind.
I love it. And so I'm gonna say I have the first versions, the ones that
Yes.
haven't been changed. But but I think everything you said, like one, it certainly is geared towards a little bit more like right that you have a younger audience, a younger perspective a little bit in there, but it's so powerful and so raw. So I'm gonna say I've got part two here.
Yes.
And it starts off it's this little X-rated in
It
some
is.
moments. But
It is.
like and I gotta say, just before we go into it, a shout out to No Holdbacks, Tasha, our fellow Ranters Union, just getting a Beyonce hash card upgrade. Yes.
Yes, upgrade, upgrade.
And welcome. And so I think like though it's like the honest rawness of it, there's something so real and touching and powerful in that. So the way you've set these up, you have actually journal entries
Yes.
of individuals who have written their journals, and then you wrote the poetry. So tell me more about just this setup of these books, and particularly of part two, because this is the one where you interviewed others.
Yes, yes, yes. So I started to, in part two, I started to get into the interview portion of where I actually sat down with people and wrote out the interview. Just so people, because I didn't want to take away or the vernacular of the individual that was speaking.
Hmm.
So I wanted to write it from their point of view as well as their style of speaking or talking or anything in that sort that you may say, opposed to in the very first. And I started to do that too with 2, 3, because I have 4 books, and I did that with 2, 3, and 4, where there's conversations in those books, opposed to the very first copy where is a story and then there's a poem. And just to speak about what you were saying, as far as the X-rated part, that's what I'm going to edit too as well. So there's a lot of things that I'm gonna kind of
Hmm.
change and revise, and because I just don't want people to have a lustful spirit when they read that stuff. Like somebody told me, and this to be completely wrong because we all grown. Somebody told me, I had to masturbate when I got done. I was like, oh my gosh.
I was saying, yeah, I was
I
thinking,
was like, dang, it was like real raw. It just took me
I
there.
mean,
I
it's
was like,
well
oh my
written.
goodness, I don't want that to be my
Like,
purpose.
it's
I
pretty
don't
visual and well written. Like,
I do not want to be, I don't want that to be the purpose behind, so now I'm resetting my intentions. So now, and that's the thing why I said it's going to be much more powerful because I'm shifting the intentions. Back then, I was younger. I had my purpose and I had a passion, and my heart was in the right place, but
mhm.
the intentions kind of swayed off a little bit. So, yeah, that's not
That's
my
the evolution of creativity, right?
right.
Start in one place. And it's honestly the evolution of the pain to power journey too, right?
Right,
Is that like at at that moment, those were those pieces of transmuting those pain or also just those stories into humanity of the stories. And I will say, yes, a little X-rated. Yes, yes,
good Lord, these people
yes.
are
I
getting
mean, look,
horny by these
vividly
words,
written,
Lord Jesus.
but I'm gonna say, Jenise, though, all of that, and I would say though, what I love is that through that, there's still this humanity of it, right? Like I think
Right,
you took something that seems so raw and could be seen only as lustful and only as like this limited perspective on women, particularly, right? And our urges and our needs and
right,
whatever, right? Like, and you made it very much a story of humanity, like a story of discovery, a story of understanding self, a story of even self-love to some extent, right?
right.
And you captured
Yeah,
that.
that self love was in there. I know exactly which one you speaking of when you say that. So yeah, you're right. You are right.
So I you're in this evolution, you're going to go back and shift some things, but I would say there's a lot of power into what you created already. So
Yes, it is. That's
and
what I said. It's always gonna be my baby. But yes.
and I'm gonna say for that, actually, there was a part that I wanted to elevate because it hit me. So some of this was that, but then you had a lot of interviews with actually inmates
Yes.
in these conversations. And there was one in particular. I don't know if you know, but I'm an educator, so I'm in education, and this one in particular that came from the poem "Cognac and
Oh,
Prosperity."
prosperity. Okay, yeah.
um it was the person you interviewed, inmate, as is written here, says, I used to act as if I wanted to be a journalist, but when I was younger I had a teacher destroy that seed that was growing. And you asked a little bit more, and she says, in the 5th grade the teacher asked me a question in front of the class and I got the answer wrong. At the end of class she told me I should keep my mouth closed because I'm always saying something stupid. That was the end for me. I never raised my hand again and no longer studied because I felt like I was stupid. That's why I dropped out so early. No need to learn if you're going to forever be stupid. I needed to find other ways to make money to help my mother. I had the hopes and dreams, but I allowed someone to kill them.
Yeah. Yeah. She's actually home now. So yeah, that's and she yeah. So yeah, that was a hard one. That was definitely hard. Even yeah, that was a very touchy one because and I'm sorry, what question were you going to ask before I expound?
No, please. I want to know the story. Yeah.
Yes,
Tell me
yes.
more.
So yeah, that was an individual who and she's a very extremely close friend. I mean, she's doing very well now. And she no longer thinks that way. But we had outside of that conversation, well, just to give the viewers a little bit more insight of that particular um piece, but well, conversation. So with that conversation, I was able to interview someone who was incarcerated, who was a woman. And I think a lot of people, we do speak, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking any light away from our males being incarcerated, but it is Color Girl Chronicles. So I was able to speak on a lot of females or I was able to meet with a lot of, not a lot, a few that I was able to meet as well as their child because they were impacted too as well.
Hmm.
But with that particular story is she went a little deeper. I did stop it, but she did. I'll just give you a little bit more insight. But she did go a little bit deeper, far as she ended up calling me like a year later, and she was like, after that interview that you did, she was like, I just really thank God that we was able to really chop it up and we was able to speak, because it kind of gave me a lot of clarity to my situation. And I actually told her too, I'm like, listen, you can't, I think what we tend to do is give people power over
Hmm.
our actions or over our emotions. um and yes, you do have people out there who are dream killers, and that's why a lot of people say, hey, don't tell nobody nothing until after it happened, and even sometimes just let them see it on their own. But when it comes to when you're a child or whatever, growing up in certain areas, and she was an individual who she went to a good popular school, and she was probably and she was one of the individuals that you probably wouldn't have even thought that she would have gotten incarcerated because of her type of upbringing.
Hmm.
But she was in a school system where statistically they kind of just looked at her. Let's just call it how it is. She was in a PWI, predominantly white
Hmm.
institute,
Hmm.
and she was a little black girl. And of course, sometimes teachers, they say little things to you, and she took that and she dragged that on for the longest time, even to growing up, as you see, all the way until she got incarcerated, till she
Good.
got back, and that was her glory trigger. And what we don't notice is that a lot of things that we've been through when we were a child is the reason why we make decisions that we make. And I was going through this is something that session, my therapist had helped me really understand, far as, because I told her how I like to understand the why. Well, why did I do this? And she said, it's a lot of things subconsciously that has been embedded that you don't even really pay attention to, or whatever. As far as what
Hmm.
you've seen when you was a child, what was said to you when you was a child, that it's still subconsciously there. And the reason that you make the decisions that you make is because of the things that you have been through. So she carried that seed that was planted inside of her for years, going up, always, to the point that even the decision that she made was stupid. So she
Hmm.
always thought that she was stupid at school, dropping out of high school. I can't do it. And not noticing until she got into the interview that, hey, you know what? That's a good question. I think back, I had to think about it when I was a little girl, this situation. And that's why I said there's a lot of purpose with the book too as well, far as, because a lot of women who have been in that type of situation, regardless if you have somebody that has been incarcerated, or if you've been incarcerated, you may know somebody that's been incarcerated, or family member, loved ones, far as the why in their situation too as well. But that chapter alone was a very touchy one. And I still connect with a lot of those women, a lot of the stories, a lot of people, and they always ask, when you gonna do another book? I got a lot, been through a lot more stuff. So when you gonna do another one? I got a story
Hmm.
to tell. But with that particular story, it was definitely heartfelt.
And I mean, I felt it. Like I felt it definitely, right? And uh, I think the power of telling other stories in a way that they haven't had the opportunity to share is huge, right? Like, because those are things that obviously stuck with her for a long time, and I imagine you saw that pattern with a lot of people as things that they were impacted by in their youth, that they held on to, that impacted decisions that they've made throughout. Like, what are some of those, have you seen those patterns, and I guess what are some of the things that have come from what you've learned through these conversations as you interviewed and you had conversations with people?
I've learned that some people, they will talk about their experiences, but they will just stay there. Some people are complacent. Some people are comfortable in their trauma, and some people are just comfortable in their pain. Some people don't want to transfer it to power. I've learned that I can't save everyone. That most of the time I have to worry about myself and focus on myself, and through my light, others will evolve. So because a lot of people that I have, spoke with or dealt with, actually, this was a period in my life where I just completely kind of just like shut a lot of people off. Only because I noticed that I was like, and it wasn't intentional. And of course, people don't notice what's happening when they're doing it. But I've always been that person that you can call and you can talk to. And when
Mm.
you constantly the strong person and people just pulling on you and pulling on you and pulling on you and your cup just get empty, and now it's just like, oh my goodness, I can't really help anybody. I gotta fill my cup back up. So what I've learned throughout the years with that is that, I mean, it's great to be able to do it, but it's a serious, not an obligation, because at first I did feel like it was an obligation. It's like it was my head to help everybody. I had to be the hero. I had
Mm.
to see people through um, their situation to the point that I would insert myself in situations where I probably should have never inserted myself. And now I'm learning that sometimes people don't need help. It's more that they need discipline, and sometimes when you constantly that person that's always helping somebody, you kind of, and not just a conversation, I'm talking about finance, or constantly just doing something for somebody, because sometimes you think that you may be helping an individual, but you're actually enabling them. And I've learned that most of the time, when you take the responsibility away from an individual, you weaken the mind, because responsibility and experience is meant to have that person be able to think strategically out of their situation, as well as experiences. You should be able to know how to maneuver. You should, but sometimes when people, but anyway, to get back to your question, because I was going completely on a rampant. But yeah, so I've just learned, yeah, some people are complacent, you really can't change it. And some people, you are really there to help them, and to the point that you're able to plant seeds inside of them, and so that they can grow, and that necessarily enable them. So I'm learning the
Mhm.
difference between enabling and actually helping somebody effectively, to the point that they can actually become a better person on the other side. So that's what I learned.
Mm. I love that. And that is really important because I think, and you didn't go off on a tangent. I think it's all connected, right? Because
Right.
that idea, it sounds like you learned about others, but you also learned about yourself too, right? Like it was
Right.
twofold in that moment. And Sam
That's my
Sam Stocks,
husband.
that's your husband. That's what I assumed. What keeps
Hey,
you
honey.
motivated when the tough times come? That's a great question. I love it. I love, look,
Yes.
that's real support of a partnership. He's got questions for you too.
Yes. So what keeps me motivated when the tough times come? Actually, I don't really notice the motivation until afterwards, because you really don't understand your strength until you've reached the power. And it's like, oh my goodness, I got through that. I
Mm.
actually did that, but to what keeps me motivated is that I think the thought of me knowing that I'm good even through the tough times, and me knowing that it's temporary. I always tell myself when I'm going through something and I'm in a tough situation, this is temporary, Jenise, this is temporary. You're not going to get stuck here. You just have to figure it out and get through it. Just get through it. It's okay. You're going to be okay. Life can be much
Mm.
worse. You are blessed. So I just have to constantly speak life into the situation, because that's exactly what it is. It's just a situation. And it's like, it's not the end of the world. This situation is not going to break me. So what keeps me motivated is me speaking to the situation, me giving life to the situation, actually reversing it and allowing that situation we going back to glory again. So, to give that situation glory and say, you know what, Jenise, girl, you're gonna have a victory at the end of this. You're gonna be good. You're gonna be on another level. You're gonna have another perspective. It's another jewel experience. It's gonna be okay. You good. I may cry. Go ahead, cry. Cry. Crying is good. It feels good after you cry. So, I get through it. I just have to remind myself that I am okay.
I love that. And I think honestly, that to me goes back to that, like what I was talking about with discomfort, right? It's like you really have to talk yourself through it to realize that it's okay. Like I'm going to feel this for a little bit, but I'm not going to stay here.
Right.
And you never stay there, right? And
Right.
welcome, shout out to Nikki
Hey,
Narratives. I love
Nikki.
it. Nikki's in the chat with us. Do you think our culture makes us believe that we have to save everyone? I think that's such a great question because I was
That
thinking like,
is.
that is actually almost like it's not just enabling, but I wonder, what do we learn about ourselves when we realize that it's actually not a good thing that we've been doing something?
Yeah, and I think you should know when to help and when not to help. But I do think that our culture does um kind of make us believe that, because we always, what's the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. So we've
Hmm.
always depended on so many people to do one thing. We always, looked after this person. And even with, to kind of not to get too political, but even with the Democrat Party and with welfare and stuff like that, not knocking anybody that's on welfare, but and not to get into politics too deep, y'all don't start screaming at me. But sometimes even with that some people get comfortable. I remember one time I was working with somebody and she quit her job because her stamps got cut low. And she did, and I'm like, but you can elevate, you can grow in the job, and it could be. She's like, girl, they say cut my stamps off. So that goes back to, some people like to be complacent, and some people can. Some situations sometimes is there to enable you. Food stamps kind of enable her a little bit. She wasn't able to go to her next level in life because of her being enabled. She liked the help and she was comfortable with having that and being that way for life. But yeah, I do think that sometimes our culture can have us always thinking that we always have to. And don't get me wrong, it's nothing wrong with helping somebody when it's needed. And I think there's a big line between understanding when a person, I feel like help is when you can't do it yourself at all. But if you are capable to do something yourself, then I think that you need to be able to do it. It's like, I had a cousin who I just always submitted applications for her. And I'm like, well, let me show her how to do it. And let me
Mm.
show her how to do a resume, because if I just keep doing it for her, then she just gonna keep coming to me, to the point she was bringing her friends to me like, my cousin can do your resume. She can, let me show you so you can show them, and then we can strengthen the mind, because now I'm taking the responsibility away from you,
Mm.
and you're not even thinking strategically. Okay, I know how to do this, I know how to do that, so let me go ahead and. So I think we need to do more of study doing things for people, but teaching people how to do it, so that we can be able to teach the next person. Each one teach
Yeah.
one, each one reach one,
Hmm.
you
And
know.
there's something to be said, right, about that productive struggle of like you grow. People grow in that space where they have to push themselves a little bit outside
Right.
of their comfort zone. And it is so important because when we enable individuals, and I think structures enable us. So you mentioned some things, right? Like there are structures and simple systems that enable intentionally, because enabling is also a way to control in
Exactly.
many ways, right? It's a control thing. Um,
Exactly.
and I think, the example you just lifted, right, when we talk about our systems and welfare, we're not going to go into it, but that's a control
Right.
thing. That's a
Right.
definite system of control. And oftentimes we've been sucked into that in our own healing of not taking that ownership for that process. I love this, and I love all that you're sharing. And thank you so much for all of we've got some great supporters in the chat asking some questions. We're going to take a quick break because I am also a writer. I don't know if you had an opportunity to read my blog yet. I
Right.
speak on healing and more about my own personal journey. But we're going to check out a quick commercial just to learn a little bit about my writing. And then we'll be back in just a moment.
Awesome.
And I love it. Before we go, we can just take this chat. Thank you. Yes, amen. Teach a man to fish. I think that's somewhere in the Bible. Exactly, right? Teach a man to fish for sure,
Right.
right? It's not just about showing them.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Maria, but you are soon going to know me as Brown Girl Interrupting. And what I mean by that is that very soon, hopefully, you're going to be following my blog. I am a writer, and I started writing because I was married, I had children, and then my life changed when I separated. And I did a lot of learning and reflecting and growing in that process of change, because change always leads us to that. And I've decided to share that with the rest of the world, because sometimes hearing that someone else is going through the same thing as you, or understanding and putting words to the feelings and experiences we're having, helps us to heal from them, or grow from them, or learn from them. And so that's what my blog is. It's writing about life, healing, relationships, parenting, dating, marriage, pain, love, mistakes, growth, and coming out whole still in all of it as a human, flawed, but always open to new things. So that's my life, that's my journey, and it's written in this blog. But my hope is that you are going to go to www.browngirlinterrupting.com and join and subscribe to the blog and read all about my story to help you maybe gain some perspective on yours.
Awesome. That was awesome. We may have to change the tables one day. I may have to interview you on your show and ask you.
Look, I'm up for it. I'm up for it. I'd
Hey,
love that. And definitely, if you haven't done it yet, please go subscribe to the blog. Put your email in. You'll get all the updates. I recently wrote 3 posts, actually. Leaping into Fear, which is all based on the story I told at the beginning of the show. Burden of Resilience, talking about a lot of the things we've talked about when it comes to being so strong and what that is for us. And finally, The Kiss of Life, inspired by Sade's song, and just my own story of some pain and power that I've been experiencing the last few years. So please go subscribe. Make sure you go to the website and you check it out. So Jenise, we are very, very lucky, because today we're not only going to get to hear the story of your writing, but we get to hear some of your writing. So you are going to read a piece for us. Tell us a little bit about what you're reading and some intro info, and then take the stage.
most certainly. So, this poem, this is actually the poem that you. It's my favorite poem of all time. All about it, all of my poems is my very favorite one. But this is a poem I wrote in high school. This is one that you've heard before as well. And it's called "The Making of a Whore." And a lot of people are like, "Woo, what's that title mean? What is that title?" So as I say, "The Making of a Whore," they like, "What in the world?" But it was a conversation. This is me once again trying to understand the why. And a lot of people may be thinking, "Well, why she always want to know why?" She knows. But Jenise means grace, woman of grace. And in order to extend grace, a lot of the time we you want to understand. Because everything has a healing background. But anyway, The Making of a Whore was written because me and a homegirl, we was speaking back in high school, in my get high days, was getting blazed. But we were speaking, it was like, I wonder why people just go to become more promiscuous, or how does a person actually, why we got hoes? Why was a label hoe even created? Like how did these labels be placed on women where they may be can you cuss up here?
Yes,
Okay.
you can speak for it.
But so when you may become a bitch, or you may become a hoe, or you may become a whore, or all of these labels, and you get these labels due to the experiences or the things that you have experienced. So it's like, and I remember a song, I think it was a J. Cole song, and he said, "Not every woman is a bitch, and not every woman is a not every woman is a queen, and not every woman is a hoe," or something like that. But I always like to say, every woman is a queen, no matter what she's experienced, no matter what she's done,
Mm.
because that's the way that she was born. It's like being getting a sex change or something. You was born the way that you was born. You was born who you was born to be, and at the end of the day, you know, regardless, sometimes life and experience put labels on us. But yes, this is the making of a whore. And my first time, I haven't really spit this in a minute since the last time I had spit it there, and before that was some years. But anyway, this is the making of a whore. While growing up in the fast lane, she started these fast ways, and she was missing her father, missing the love that can only be given by a man, but instead she grabbed the hands of many. She seeked direction through the sex demon. She discovered she could only fulfill that emptiness if her vagina was filled with his penis. And even though each dude split, she didn't care because she was in search. So she lifted up her skirt just to feel wanted, only for the moment, just to feel that penetration, and she would come. But then she would run because she couldn't handle love. It stepped out on her the day she was born. She was born to be a bad girl. She really wants love, but she contradicts love, but yet men still fall in love. So now she's a sad girl. While growing up in the fast lane, she started these fast ways, and she was missing her virginity. She once was pure until one night she was walking home and he raped her. She no longer had relations to purity. Mad at God, asking him, "How could you do this to me?" She became more promiscuous, and no longer did she care, and her body she shared with everyone. She hated men because at the age of 16, she found out she lost one. She started writing letters to her unborn child, and she lost two. She found out she was dying, affected with a deadly disease. She was HIV positive. So without faith, her thoughts was full with negativity, and in all actuality, she lost three: her virginity, purity, and now dignity. So sad she didn't even fight back. So instead, she left a note stating that she was better off dead. Damn. While growing up in the fast lane, she started these fast ways, and she was missing love. She gave all to this man, but he did nothing but verbally and physically beat her. She gave him all her love, and no love was returned, so all love was taken. And after he took everything from her, he left. She faced the world and no longer had control over herself. She envied men, wanted to have power over their emotions because that's what happened to her. So she got back with the other gender, and now she's a gold digger with her black fist up, screaming, "These niggas ain't shit." She started playing these dudes because of the fact that she had to, calling her goody snapback, and she strips on the weekend because her ass is fat. And in fact, she is confused forever. These women grew up in life the fast way and experienced life the fast ways because now they are bitches, slut, hoes, and whores. Classified by labels that was discovered by the things that these women went through, and the life is true, placed with circumstances that lead you up to what to do. Sex seems to be the root of happiness these days, being a delectation presented by pimps, players, bastards, delivered to the weak and broken down for anything far from outspoken type. I don't want to seem like I'm male bashing, but we either help it to stop it or we watch it and we witness it get worse. So we'll have to discontinue this continuance of this generational curse. And that's it.
And poem. You took the stage, and it was amazing. I was there the first time I heard it, and it struck me because you're right. Like the title, and then I'm like, okay, what's this going to be about? Like like I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. But I think so when you were reading it, and when I heard it, I remember the first time. I'm thinking of the Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and she talks about the idea of this danger of the single story. And
Mm-hmm.
so much these labels are those single stories of identity that
Right.
we place on people. And your why is so powerful because the thing is that nothing starts at that point. Like that idea of like if when you start a story with secondly, you're limiting the whole story of who someone is. And I think the power of your writing, the power of your storytelling is that why is so important to our humanity
Right.
and defining connection between each other and seeing, especially as women, especially as women, right? Like we are so quick to judge other women, we are so quick to put other women down, to not understand their stories, to assume things about them. So I just really appreciate everything you're doing and everything you're creating because I think that there's so much power within it.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me and me being able to share everything on your platform. So thanks again. Thank
Thank
you.
you. No, thank you. So we have a few minutes, and before we go, first I want you to say any last words of just anything you want people to walk away. You've been dropping gems all night, and I imagine you got some thoughts on just this idea of just what you think our audience needs to hear right now to give them life, to give them that glory of energy of expression.
Yeah, I would say don't allow fear to stunt your growth. Just do it. Don't allow your past to have power over your future. I would say everything that you want in life is at the grasp of your hand. And all you got to do is open it and hold it tight and don't let it go. Remember your purpose, remember your passion, remember why you were created, and that everybody was created to be a blessing. And the way that you are going to be a blessing, that's what you got to figure out. But do not give up on figuring out your why.
Mm. I love it. Don't give up on figuring out your why. So, as we're not giving up and we're continuing to follow you, what do we have to look forward to? And what are some of the other places we can find you and things that you have going on?
Yes. So you can visit my website, which is www.colorgirlchronicles.com. I'm also on all social media platforms as Jenise Stocks, except for Facebook. I'm as Jenise Sade. And Sade is Sade, just like the singer, Jenise Sade. Sade is my middle name. That's what the S stands for. So yes, all social media, TikTok, Instagram, Jenise Stocks, Facebook, Jenise Sade. Website is www.colorgirlchronicles.com. And definitely while you're following, because some things are going to be changing. So definitely make sure that you definitely follow those platforms so that you'll know exactly what's going to be happening and what's going to be changing and my growth, because I'm going to continue to grow. So yeah, let's grow together. So, and I'm also looking for women to more women to connect with in the DMV area. I'm starting a web series as well, so I'm looking for some actors. I'm looking to start a film team. So if anybody is really interested, definitely get with me and let's link up and let's make some things happen.
I love it. And I know that our audience, we've got a lot of people from the DMV in here. So hopefully we're going to get some connections and also make sure to check out your hair products as well.
Yes, and I'm like I said at the beginning, I'm an entrepreneur. So I also have hair products, 22ahc.com. So make sure you check out our hair products. We have the Crown Bev Cleanser, which is our shampoo. Yes, that's me and my business partner, Marche Cox. Shout out to my best friend. That's my girl, my heart. But yes, so make sure y'all check out Advanced Hair Care. So if you're looking for something to get your roots going, get your hair back, so definitely check it out.
I love it. Definitely, everybody, please make sure you check it out. Links are all below in the chat. Make sure that you are following me and Jenise and you
Yes,
are paying attention to all the things going on with the businesses and our writing and thank you again for tuning in today and thank you Jenise for your
thank
time for your
you.
wisdom for your why because it's continuing to drive us all and as everybody continues to think about your experiences and that discomfort just as Jenise led us out to say right just don't be afraid of that fear don't be afraid of the unknown. When you make that leap, you really do grow in ways that you wouldn't even realize you could. And it's just faith in yourself. It really is faith in yourself and faith that you're going to be carried through the universe through this process. So thank you again to all of you. Thank you to our iRant network for who this show is in association with, to my amazing producer, Jalogic. Cannot forget him. And please make sure to check out my Instagram because we have an event coming up to celebrate his 40th and in New York for a harbor cruise. Make sure that you check out some of that information. And I am not here live next week because it is Mother's Day. I will be celebrating
Yes, that's
and
a good day. early.
Thank you, thank you, and happy Mother's Day! Shout out early to all of my mothers in the chat and watching and tuning in later. But I will be back on May 21st for another artist at the same event that I met you at, Jenise. I have Miata
Yes.
Harris coming on May 21st.
Awesome.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Everyone tune in. You're gonna love it.
Right,
She's
right. She's
awesome.
got a great story, beautiful
She's
poetry, and you are not going to want to miss her journey of pain to power. So please make sure that you subscribe, that you are hitting the bell so that you get the notifications for every Sunday at 9 o'clock to come and tune in, learn how to heal through storytelling and community on Pain to Power with me, Brown Girl Interrupting, and all of my amazing guests like Janice Stokes today and Stocks. I'm going to get
it's
look, your
okay.
husband is like, she can't say my name right.
It's okay.
I
We love you.
apologize, Mr. Stocks. I got it. Janice Stocks.
That's
And
right.
thank you so much. And thank you, Nikki, for being in the chat. We appreciate you. And to all
Yes.
my renters, family, and supporters, we appreciate you all. And just one love. Yes.
Yes.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you. Have a beautiful night. Peace, love, and light.